I just officially turned in my resignation letter and told everyone that I work with that I'm done and I'm not coming back next year. You guys, I thought this was going to be like really like hard for me and that I would be freaking out and like so scared because I had anticipated in my head for so long, like just saying those words like I'm resigning, I'm not coming back next year. But it literally feels so good and feels so freeing. And I'm just so confident and excited about where things are going and like the idea of not having to go back to school to work in the fall is honestly like the best thing ever, the best feeling ever.
Something about this whole teacher shortage conversation is not sitting well with me, and I will tell you why. Because everybody keeps talking about teachers leaving. They're saying, nobody knows what's going to happen when there's not enough teachers left. And I think the problem is that teachers are leaving faster than college programs can replace them. And I don't think people understand exactly what that's going to mean. Eventually, there's not going to be enough experienced teachers left to hold classrooms together. To be honest with you, I am building like hell right now so I don't have to go back, because the teachers that I know that are still teaching, they're exhausted. They're telling me behavior's worse. They're telling me the support is gone. The workload, they keep throwing more work on teachers and not giving them the time to do it. And they're expecting teachers to fix problems that they didn't create. Parents are sending kids to school with no boundaries, no consequences, no respect for adults. And then they're blaming the teachers when the classroom falls apart. It's not a teacher problem. It is a system problem. What happens when the people still holding the schools together finally just say, I'm done, and there's no teachers left to teach?
There is a quiet collapse happening right now in our public education system, and it has nothing to do with budgets or standardized tests. Across the country, experienced educators are walking away from their classrooms and never looking back. What we are witnessing isn't just typical burnout. It is a mass exodus driven by a fundamental breakdown in how we discipline our kids and manage our schools. Teachers are being forced to act as parents, therapists, and behavioral managers, all while dealing with administrations that refuse to hold anyone accountable. The unwritten social contract of the American classroom is broken, and the people holding it together have finally had enough.
I quit teaching after 17 years in the classroom, and right before I walked away from the classroom, I received a level 5 certificate. And what that means in the teaching world is every year you get evaluated a level 1 to level 5. Level 3 is, where you should be. Level 5 means that you've exceeded expectations in test scores, growth, achievement, your evaluations, different things go into that. And so I remember feeling some kind of way because I even had it brought to my attention that, are you sure that you want to do this? This is something that you're really good at. Like, are you sure you're making, the right decision? And I remember feeling like, oh my gosh, I am walking away from something that I know how to do. Like, I am very comfortable here. I know how to do this. I'm exceeding expectations. And so I remember reaching out to my mindset coach during that time because I was going through this huge transition. I was a 17-year teacher. It was my whole identity. And he said something to me, and he said, but are you meeting Bridget's expectations of what Bridget expects of herself? I wanted to be a present mama. As we know, I got in a space to make $500 a month online to pay for my daughter's dance fees. But as I got more and more income coming in, I'm like, I can be a present mama and still bring in money. So that became my drive. I kept having that vision of wanting to be that present mama. And I wasn't a present mama. I hadn't been a present mama mentally for a long time. And so when I kind of shifted my perspective and my thinking to, yeah, I'm exceeding expectations, but they're not my expectations of myself. And so I just want y'all to think about that for a second. Like, are you living up to your expectations? Are you doing, what you want to do truly? Or are you just always living every day to try to meet someone else's expectations? Because for me, that was, yes, when I work at something, I always try to do the best at whatever I do. But at the same time, it was more about meeting other people's expectations. And I wasn't really fulfilling mine and meeting mine. So I don't know. There's just something to think about.
Okay, I'm just curious because there are some days teaching that I feel like I'm in a fever dream. I'm like, this cannot be real. Like, what is happening right now? Like, I know all the teachers get what I'm talking about, but my veteran teachers, like, I swear, I'm 26. I swear when I was a kid that this did not happen, right? Like, while the teacher was up there trying to teach math, there was not a kid like in the back of the classroom destroying the classroom, like doing crazy things, hiding under desks, screaming and yelling, or like throwing things. Like, if I were think back to elementary school, I feel like that never happened. Like, I never saw that. And now, obviously, that's an extremely normalized thing, right? You're up teaching math. A kid is like breaking pencils and throwing desks in the back of the classroom. Did that used to happen? Because I don't know if it's just like, I don't remember, you know, or if that genuinely did not happen back then. And this is like becoming a new thing. Because sometimes I'm like, this would have never happened when I was a student. But I'm like, I don't know, honestly. So all my veteran teachers out there, if you've been teaching for 25 plus years, when you started, did this kind of stuff happen? Or was it just not a thing? Because sometimes I genuinely am like, I'm in a fever dream. I'm supposed to be teaching math, but there's a kid. Anyways, let me know.
I don't care what no one says. I'm on the teacher side. I'm on the school administration side, because I have seen so many goddamn videos, and it's so sad that I have to make this video, where teachers are quitting their jobs because your kid decide they want to come to school and be disruptive. They want to be the class clown. They don't want to learn nothing. They just want to cause havoc. Real human beings are quitting their job because you're not raising your kid right. You're letting your kid do whatever they want to do. It's already hard enough in this world, in this economy. We're dealing with that orange man. But these people trying to come to work and make an honest living, but they stressed out. They over the limit because they have to deal with your kids. The shit that you allow in your house.
I just got done seeing a friend I haven't seen in a while since I left the classroom, and she was like, how did you know it was time for you to leave? I was like, when one of my students threatened to SHOOT me. That's how I knew.
Y'all want to know how bad the education system is right now? A teacher quit on Friday. There's only 9 days left in the school year. That's how bad y'all's children are. Crazy work.
I love teaching because of the pay, and I'm staying gone from teaching because of the health. My health has drastically improved since I have left the classroom. Mentally, physically, spiritually, relationally, all of it has improved. I remember I used to see my friends who quit teaching when I was still teaching, and they had this glow about them. They had this energy about them. And I was like, it can't be that much better. And they would say, girl, you just wait, it is. And it is. It is. If your autoimmune is spiking during the school year because of the stress, that's not normal. No, that is not normal. If we are having to medicate ourselves because of the stress and anxiety that teaching has started to bring into your life, that is not normal. That's not good. So anyway, I'm just telling you, it's like you leave for one reason and then you realize that's not even the reason anymore. The benefits, the other benefits out there far outweigh the reason. So if you feel like your health is suffering, like you don't get to drink enough water, you never get to go to the bathroom, you're always exhausted, you come home and you can't be the wife or the mother or the sister or the friend that you want to be, that is not good mental, physical, relational health. So hope this helps.
I just resigned from my public education teaching job as the ultimate gift to myself on this Teacher Appreciation Week. I will miss the kids so much. This decision was not about them. It's everything else. I honestly have no idea what's next for me, but if there's anything I can bet on, it's myself.
I am a first-year high school English teacher. This is definitely going to be my first and last year teaching. I was made very quickly aware of the fact that this is not the profession for me. It is absolutely astonishing and scary how your kids are 14, 15 years old and still do not have the proper reading skills. And I'm not talking about the ESC kids, the 504s, the IEP kids. I'm talking about your everyday regular Joe Schmo from Kokomo kid who does not know how to read and write at the level that they should. And the problem is that they don't care to learn how to do those things correctly. I can't teach the class because your kid wants to be a disruption, because your kid wants to be on their phone, because your kid does not give a flying about their education. The problem really, yes, the problem is your kid. The problem is also you as a parent, but the problem is also the administration who continuously makes these stupid excuses for these kids' bad behavior. Why in the world are you still talking about COVID? Every time these kids act up, it's always, well, they spent 2 years in COVID. So did everybody else. That was 2 years ago. At what point are we gonna stop blaming COVID for these kids' bad behavior? At what point are we gonna stop making these excuses for these kids? They are the problem. When you are stopping your teacher from being able to teach the entire class because you don't wanna follow directions, that is a you problem. And the thing is, the teacher will always get blamed. Every single time. It's always the teacher's fault. The teacher can't manage their classroom well. The teacher doesn't have the patience. The teacher this, the teacher that. When are you going to start holding your kids accountable for their bad behavior? This is why all these teachers are leaving, because they're tired of getting blamed for your kids' wrongdoing, for your lacking as a parent, for your lacking as an administration. My job as a teacher, it should just be to teach my curriculum. My job as a teacher should not be to be the therapist, to be the nurse, to be the parent, I don't get paid enough for that. Like when teachers talk about the problem with pay, that's what they're talking about, because you're requiring all of us to do all the work of like 4 different careers, but only paying us for one. The districts are all afraid of the parents complaining. The administration is afraid of the parents complaining. The parents are afraid of the kids who don't want to do their job. And who's left to pick up the pieces? The educators, the teachers. Because if these kids fail, y'all are gonna make it seem like, well, the teacher wasn't doing their job. It's the teacher's fault. No, it's your kid who came to my class, sat there, twiddled on his phone. She wanted to sit here and talk to this girl, do everything but what they're supposed to be asked. And I cannot get them to do their work because they don't care. And they know you're gonna make excuses for them. And that's why they continue to do the same things that they do. When these kids get sent to ISS, for whatever the case may be, you know what happens? Nothing. They just sit there on their phone or sit there on their laptop and do nothing. It's essentially free time for them. What are they learning from that? Sure, they might miss out on an assignment, but then here their parents come talking about, what can my child do to make up their grades? How about stop getting suspended? How about when I'm teaching a lesson, close your mouth? How about when I tell you to do something, instead of rolling your eyes and having a nasty attitude about it, you just do it? Put the discipline back into the schools. I'm not saying bring back the paddle, bring back the actual disciplinary actions, because these kids are not learning a thing.
So after about 20 years of teaching, the teachers and I have noticed that the kids keep getting more difficult every year. And by difficult, I don't mean like I don't like them and they don't like me. I just mean like they really lack the foundational skills that school requires, whether that be the foundational social skills, fine motor skills, gross motor skills. Gross motor skills meaning like they fall out of their chairs. They drop the Chromebooks every day. Thankfully there's carpet in here. The boys want to touch each other nonstop. If I had $1 for every time I said boys stop touching each other, and this is middle school, I would have thousands this year. Thousands. Not the girls, especially not this year. No girls holding hands or anything like in previous years. But the boys, they're dying for affection. Do you know at home tickling your kid or like patting their shoulder or like playing with their hair is all considered affection? Boys need more affection. Okay, the middle schoolers, so like the 5th graders going into 6th grade next year, 1,000 times harder than the 6th graders this year. The 6th graders this year, 1,000 times harder than the 6th graders last year. The dopamine centers in their brain are fried. They're addicted to devices. The Chromebooks are the devil. The cell phones are the devil. Roblox is the devil. It's all ruining the kids. And it's not about personal preference. Like, they cannot critically think. I don't have my students on Chromebooks and I don't have them copying or doing notes. I make them use critical thinking every day and they hate me. Today they're making a poem called the Where I'm From poem, and they have to actually use their critical thinking. They have to think about their home. They have to think about adjectives that describe their home, and every day they're burnt out on that. That's what this generation lacks. Nobody's making them think critically, and nobody's really holding them to standards that are very simple. Learn to care for yourself. Learn to understand like personal space and body language, you know? So I'm very concerned about this incoming group, and I will keep trying to do the tricks that I do, which come from raising an emotionally intelligent child and how to talk so little kids will listen. And I've even read books on ADHD and oppositional defiance, because that's where we're at now with most of the students. Now, the fraction of students who don't operate like that will be just fine. They were already going to be just fine because their parents communicate with them and their parents hold them to a certain standard. So, and literally just valuing education and creating a home environment that allows your child to focus on their education is the best thing you can do as a parent. And sometimes I know that's asking too much of parents to create an environment that values education. I'm talking the bare minimum. I'm talking you make your kid go to school 4 days a week. I'm talking you make them clean out their backpack twice a month. I'm talking you check their grades 3 times a semester. I'm talking you know their teachers' names. I'm talking bare minimum. I'm talking there is a book in your kid's room that they read. Bare minimum. That's what we need now. Off the Chromebooks as well, off the phone.
You're not gonna believe what the student did to me today at school. Disclaimer, he is not a student of mine. He is a student that was supposed to be in a class across the hall from me. This actually happened during passing period. I had just greeted my students at the door, and I was speaking to another student of mine about some missing assignments that she had. She was standing right next to me. Again, we were standing still at the door. The student was in the hallway, and I was standing right by my door. When I see another student pass by me right in front of me and he goes into my class, mind you, he is not a student of mine, so I immediately asked him to leave my class and to please go to his correct class. He knew exactly where he needed to be, and he made the choice to come into my classroom. As he is finally exiting, he decides to stop right in front of me where I'm standing at the door. And you guys already know, I'm only 3 feet 3 inches tall. Now, these are students who are about to go into high school. This student is very, very tall, and he gave me no personal space. And what I mean by that was that he intentionally stood right in front of me, and we were probably about 2 inches away from him rubbing his private parts in my face. And he did this with a smirk on his face. So I know for a fact that he did it intentionally. This was no accident. He had plenty of space to walk on the side of the door, but instead he chose to stand right in front of me, look down on me, and almost rubbed his parts on me. I did not even put my hand in front of him or anything. I instead went back like this because I didn't want to be accused of me touching his parts. So instead I went like this, and the other student who was speaking to me actually told him, dude, that's gross, because she saw what happened. She was my witness. Anyways, I said a lot of things to him, and I asked him to please step away from me and to not ever come back into my classroom. He, of course, denied it and went finally into his classroom. I immediately called the teacher that I knew had him, and I gathered the information to call home. And this is why I'm making the video. It is so important that parents do their part. I want to tell you as a teacher, I will never take time out of my day to call and lie about your child, ever. And you best believe most teachers will never do that. Okay, so if I'm taking the time out of my day to call you, it's because this actually happened. Luckily, the mom was very supportive, and she immediately called him over to the phone to apologize to me. And he still had the nerve to deny it. He said he didn't do anything, he was nowhere near me, all these stories. Luckily, I had a witness, so points for me. But mom she did the right thing of backing me up and helping him understand that what he had done was so wrong. And I praise this mom for doing the right thing and for putting him in his place, because he knew better. This is an 8th grader about to go into high school, very soon to be an adult. If he does this as an adult, he is going to end up in jail. And he is lucky that I'm not pressing charges, because that is harassment. And so I want to tell you, parents, if your child's teacher ever calls you to tell you that your son or daughter did something at school, please believe them, because we have no reason to lie. Hold your child accountable and make them realize that what they've done is wrong and make them make it right. Because if you don't do that, if you don't take the necessary steps, when they in fact become adults, they're gonna face the harsh reality. So anyways, this had never happened to me, and I definitely submitted a report to admin, and they are handling the situation. But again, parents, do your part. This mom did her part, and I appreciate her for doing that. She is doing her son a favor by correcting him right now. He still didn't take accountability, but she at least tried. Anyway, let me know what you think about the situation. What would you have done differently, maybe? Or what would you have done if this was your child?
There is something in the water with, I don't know, all of the students in America, because no way is this normal end of year behavior. This is the worst year I've ever had. And I hear it. Everybody I follow on TikTok that's a teacher, everybody I follow in Facebook groups that's teachers. There's something going on. I live for end of the year projects, and I had to cancel them all because the kids can't handle anything. We finished testing, so we've had all this week, and then we have next week, with a couple field trips, and then we have 2 days, and I don't know what to do today. I have nothing planned because you can't give them a project. And if you think I'm being a little bit crazy about that, when we had a sub the other day in another class, they were doing a project and they were playing Mercy with the hot glue guns. They were holding the hot glue guns on each other till one gave up. They were burning each other. So I can't do projects. At this point, it's a safety risk for everybody in the room. I can't put on a movie because they just don't stop talking ever. I can't do anything at all. Yesterday, I just printed this ABCs of Math, and people, I don't even know. It's supposed to be silent. I have to be silent. I have to be not fun. And then, not only are the kids gone wild, the parents gone wild, because I'm getting emails demanding answers why I'm not doing something fun for the end of the year. What? And then between the parents and the admin, like, we can't take anything away. Take away the field trips. That's not an option anymore. You're not allowed to take things away from kids. Doesn't matter if they're fighting and hitting and cussing people out. The parents retaliate, and you can't take that away anything. This isn't like classroom management stuff. This is like, I don't know how to manage this behavior. It's exhausting. I'm exhausted. I've been sick for weeks and I can't get better because I'm so stressed out from this job. And then the parents, don't get me started. I got an email demanding $65 because their 13-year-old lost their brand new Nike hoodie. So they were demanding me, because I'm the adult in charge, pay for the hoodie that the 13-year-old lost. I got yelled at on the phone the other day because another child brought a toy to school and the toy got lost. So I got yelled at because I didn't make sure they had it at the end of the day. I have nothing else to print. I don't have any projects to do. I don't have anything to do. I can't do anything. We have 7 days left.
Some of the best teachers are the ones leaving education right now, getting up and walking away. And I don't think that we're talking about that enough. Because the teachers who care deeply, the ones that go above and beyond, who are constantly thinking about their students, are often the ones who reach a point where they physically and emotionally just cannot keep going like that anymore. And it's not because they don't love work, and it's not because they don't love the kids. It's because the way that the system is structured makes it really darn hard to sustain that level of care long term. So when those teachers leave, it's not automatically a reflection of their commitment. It's often a reflection of what the job is requiring from them. And I think that that's something we need to pay attention to, because teachers are leaving the field in droves right now. And some of those teachers are amazing, some of the best teachers out there. But the way the system is set up is making it so that this career is not a sustainable one to stay in. So if you're a teacher or somebody who works in a school, anybody really, let me know in the comments if this is something that you're seeing in your schools or seeing in your area, not so much, or maybe it's something that you yourself have gone back and forth about.
And everyone's been like, oh man, you don't get a summer. And I just truly, genuinely, I don't feel that way. Okay, so obviously, as you guys know, I quit teaching, right? And like, I feel very lucky because I got a job immediately after I knew that I was going to to leave, which was probably around like April is when I got hired. And I just had a day where I went to go shadow the person that I was going to be working with. And like, we all know that teachers are like treated like absolute trash, but I did not realize the extent until today, truly. So like the whole culture of the company in itself is just very empathetic and like puts people first and puts its employees first. And it's all about the like experience. So every Wednesday they provide lunch for the entire office. So like they just like bought me lunch, which was nice. And apparently that happens every Wednesday. So like that was very jarring for me. They have a fully stocked kitchen. And when I mean fully stocked, I mean they literally have a board on the fridge and they're like, will you please write down anything that you want us to buy for the kitchen so that we can have it here. And so like, for example, like the fridge was stocked with like sodas and coffee creamer and milk. And of course, like people did bring like snacks on their own. They had like yogurts, they had just like anything that those little like protein packs, really anything that you can think of, they had it in there. And it's all just like free reign. There is a gym inside of the office building that is right across from where our space is. And so every employee, as long as you fill out this waiver, you get full access to the gym. And this gym is like, it is nice. There's an office dog, a literal puppy that belongs to the owner of the firm, and she came in and she just had her dog, and apparently the dog just like stays there, walks around the firm while people are working. And so I was just like petting this dog. What? There's a full like ninja espresso machine that they bought for the office with like obviously like coffee beans and any kind of milk that you want to froth and like flavors that you can put in your coffee. Let me just save myself $6 in the morning stopping and getting a coffee at some coffee shop when I can just barista it up at work. So like circling back to the kitchen, not only did they have a fully stocked fridge, but they have a fully stocked pantry with like chips and granola bars and, you know, just like candy, like anything, like treats that you want. And they had a section for like normal food. They had a section for gluten-free food. Like it was crazy. And I was like, I can just take this. At the school that I worked at, like they didn't even have Keurig coffee pods available for us to make. They had the Keurigs in the workroom, but we had to like beg on our hands and knees to get a coffee pod, or we had to just buy our own, which is crazy. And everyone's been like, oh man, you don't get a summer. And I just truly, genuinely, I don't feel that way. I don't feel that way at all. One, because I'm so grateful that I landed this badass job, like immediately after I decided that I was going to quit teaching. If that's not the universe speaking, then I don't know what is, right? But also just because like the whole environment, I don't feel like I'm dreading going to work. I'm excited. It is a completely different realm than anything that I know. I know music, I know teaching, that's it. But like, as long as you're trainable, that's all they really care about. And I like to think that I am, and that like I'm a fast learner and I'm willing to do a good job. And so like, that's really all that matters. And it's just crazy because like we're literally in the trenches as educators. Like I get unlimited PTO. So even though I don't like have summer, like I can take days off. I had already planned vacations before I got hired. And so like, I just told them the days and they were like, okay, cool. Word. Love that. I get to be work from home 2 days a week once I get like super acclimated to the job. I probably won't do that for like the first couple of months, but like at this point, like I don't even want to work from home. Like I want to be at the office. Like the company, it's just like they take care of their clients. They do a really good job. They take care of their employees. And like I have never felt more valued than I do in the last day that I have been at this position.
I've been seeing a lot of talk online from teachers about why they're leaving the profession, and I wanted to kind of throw my 2 cents in as a parent of a child in public school. There's 2 main issues that I'm seeing. I think the first one, a lot of people will agree with, but the second one is probably gonna make some people mad, and I really don't care. If you're feeling frustrated or angry at what I'm saying in the second part, maybe you need to do some self-reflection, look inward, find out why. Okay, so the first thing that I'm seeing is the administration. At some point, it feels like schools started being run like a corporation, and the parents are the customers. I know that has a lot to do with funding and like ratings of schools, plus test scores. Like I know that there's a lot of things that go into it, which is unfortunate. However, a lot of responsibility is being pushed on the teachers instead of the administration. As an example, the school that my son goes to, they have a counselor on staff, they have a social worker on staff, they have several different employees that can work with students with like behavioral issues and things like that. So to push that onto the teachers is extremely unfair. They're being paid to educate, not to herd a group of 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds. You know what I mean? Something kind of separate from that, but also the same. Kids aren't getting held back anymore. And some people might not like this part of this, but do it. I was reading last night, there are some studies that say that being held back can cause self-esteem issues and anxiety for school. But guess what? If you frowned and don't do your work and get held back, guarantee it won't happen again. Like, you know what I mean? That is, you know what that's called? That's called consequences. And that's not the teacher's fault. I know that if they could, every kid would pass. Every kid would come to school every day and they would be doing what they love. They're teaching these future minds. But unfortunately, that's not what's happening. These kids are not learning, or they're not doing the work, or they're refusing to do the work. And they still have to pass them because otherwise their school's funding is going to get cut. And that's not fair to them. They did not sign up to be a part of a corporate situation. They signed up to be teachers to educate children. And just to kind of add in with that, a little bit of shame and embarrassment goes a long way. Why aren't these kids embarrassed that they're not passing their classes? When I was a child, I lived in a constant state of embarrassment. I was embarrassed to exist. I was embarrassed to not know the answer. I was embarrassed to get a bad grade. And you know what that did? That caused me to work harder. I realize that there's psychologists and stuff that say, oh, well, studies show. I don't care, frankly. A little bit of shame and embarrassment can go a long way. Hold these kids back if they don't know the material. I know that that may not directly be the administration. That's more so, I think it's the No Child Left Behind law thing. I don't really know. But that needs to go. You need to start keeping these kids back if they don't know what they're doing. The second part of this, my favorite part to talk about, because I see this a lot. I'm in a lot of parent groups, I'm in a lot of mom groups, I'm in a lot of groups about my children's specific school. You as a parent, it is your responsibility to be teaching your child emotional regulation. It is your responsibility to be teaching your child consequences to their actions and expectations of how to behave. What's happening right now is that students are getting sent to school, especially in public schools where there's 30 plus kids in a classroom. First off, you could not pay me enough to have me sit in a room with 30 plus 8-year-olds. I love my son. Tomorrow, I'm going to volunteer at in his classroom for the day for like a close to last day of school thing. That will be the only time I'm doing that this year, because you could not pay me enough to be in a room with all of those children. Kids are fine. I respect them. That's great. But here's the thing. Parents are sending these kids to school, and then teachers are not only expected to be educating the children, but also teaching them emotional and behavioral regulation. That is not their job. That is your job as a parent. And if you're not doing that, you are setting your child up for failure. You cannot expect the world to be perfectly molded to where your child is constantly comfortable. Sometimes they need to be uncomfortable because that's how you grow. Otherwise, You're going to raise a little monster who excuses all of their actions with whatever diagnoses you told them that they have. I'm not disagreeing that there are learning disabilities, that there are physical disabilities that may be stopping these kids from performing at the level of their peers. But there is a difference between knowing and understanding a diagnosis and knowing that there are things that you need to work on to help them succeed with that diagnosis and using that diagnosis as an excuse. Here's an example of what I have firsthand seen in parenting groups versus what I experienced. My son is diagnosed ADHD. We went to the doctor, we got a diagnosis, we're working on meds. Sometimes certain meds work, sometimes they don't. We tried no meds, we've tried several things. What is not okay is to say, oh, well, he has ADHD, and so he has a 504 plan. That's great. If there's a 504 in place, that's fantastic. If there's an IEP in place, that's fantastic. Back to it. Oh, well, he has a 504 plan, and so if you look through that, you'll see that whenever you see certain behaviors rising, you have to allow him to do 10 push-ups and take a walk around the classroom and do X, Y, and Z before you can expect him to do his work. I'm sorry, but no. My son has ADHD, but he knows that is not an excuse for his behavior. It can be an explanation for maybe why he's more wild some days than others, but it does not excuse the behavior. What you're doing as a parent is you're teaching your child how to avoid accountability. And what that does is you're going to create monsters. Oh, well, little Susie, she has certain triggers, and so whenever you're asking her to do her classwork, you have to, instead of taking things away, you have to, really praise her for being in the room. No. You as a parent, it is your responsibility to teach your children the consequences of their actions. Little Susie doesn't want to do work in class today? Cool. She's grounded. I mean, it's really not hard. And I'm not saying go around and whoop on these kids. I don't spank. I'm not saying that consequences have to be inherently negative, but you have got to teach them consequences or they will not learn, because there are consequences in real life. You show up to work late every day, you're fired. You don't pay your bills, your power's turned off. Like, that is your job. It is not the teacher's job to not only educate these kids, but then also teach them how to control their emotions or their behaviors. I overly communicate with my son's teacher because I'm terrified that she's gonna think, wow, because there are some days where he is absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. And I don't want her thinking that is an acceptable behavior. It is not. And me and my son have a fantastic relationship. So don't say, oh, well, I don't want to traumatize them by giving them the consequences. That me and my son have a fantastic relationship, but he also knows that he will frown and find out at the end of the day. Those are my thoughts. If you're mad, stay mad.
What you just heard is the sound of a system failing in real time. We have turned our public schools into customer service centers, where parents are treated as shareholders and students are clients who can never be told no. Thanks to administrative fears of losing district funding, accountability has vanished. We are raising a generation addicted to screens, devoid of boundaries, and insulated from the consequences of their actions. The human cost falls entirely on working-class educators paid a fraction of their worth. When a standard corporate office with a coffee machine treats a former teacher with more dignity than the school district she gave her life to, our priorities are broken. If this trend doesn't reverse, there simply won't be anyone left to hold the classrooms together. If you are a parent or someone working in our schools today, what are you seeing in your own district? Are we asking too much of our teachers, or is there a bigger cultural shift at play? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.